To say the meeting is being we see anything from each other.
Okay, say hi and see if somebody was.
What did you say hi? I got the approval from my sister that I could say hi to you, so. If she can hear me. That's a good
Good
idea.
afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to this Policy Committee meeting. My name is Ruth Fortune. I am the chair of the Policy Committee for the Hartford Board of Education. We have a very full agenda, so without any further delay, I think we'll jump right into it. I see two of our board members. I believe a third person, based on what Christina said, will be joining us soon. But we will jump right in. Thank you again for joining us. The first item on the agenda is the proposed renaming of the Buckley football field. And I will pass it over to Lori Horn to update us.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Actually, if I may, I'm going to start with friend, and he would like to speak. His name is Bill Gagney, and then I'll take over after that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ruth.
I looked at the standards and so forth, and when I was analyzing it, it seemed that there had to be particularly a significance or importance to the community in which the person performed his outstanding career. And community means different things to different people, to different areas. For example, Floyd Little means much more to the community of New Haven than it does to the south end of Hartford. And Felix Karski means much more to the south end of New Haven than it would to the city of, of Hartford than he does to the city of New Haven. And I think that Lori has spent a lot of time and work putting together this presentation for you. And I think she sought to satisfy all of the standards that the board has established in order to accomplish this. And with that, I would say that I think when you get through hearing her presentation, you'll be more than satisfied that she's in full compliance with the board standards and have satisfied them with a preponderance of the facts. So I'll turn it over to Lori now.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you. Thank you all for hearing us today. And I just wanted to make sure before I start, did everybody receive, I had emailed over to Christina my cover letter about why we would like to do this project. And also in the naming of the facilities sheet that she sent to me, I refer back to that quite a bit as to how Felix Karski does fit all the requirements for this project that we're trying to do. And I also attached multiple letters of support from different students, past students and players, as well as people in the community. And I want to make sure you have all that, because otherwise none of this is going to really mean much.
Yeah, we do.
You do. Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you. So I wanted to start by just saying that it's really important to know that we are, for this project, we wanted to get Felix Karski's name on the football field, the Buckley High School football field, as well as the scoreboard. And we wanted to make it clear that we would be financing this project, and based upon the approval from the Board of Education, and that we would fundraise to get the necessary funds before any work would get done on this project. And there's a gentleman, his name is Tom Ritter, and he has offered to be the chairperson in charge of this fundraising project. And the only question he had, he couldn't make it to this meeting today, but he wanted me to ask, and I don't know who of this committee would be the one to answer this, but if this gets approved and, we do all the fundraising to finance it, would we be able to come up with our own contractor to do the work? Or is that something that has to go out for a public bid? That
Um,
was really the only question he had.
I don't have the answer to that. I know if it's anything over 50,000, it has to go through the board, but that's for our own funds. I don't know, Attorney Wilson or someone else, do you know the answer to that?
Not offhand. We could take that offline and get back to the questioner on that. I don't have an immediate answer on that one either.
Okay, all right, but just,
But
know
it is
that
great that you plan to fundraise and pay for all the expenses. So that's
I
a good
know.
start.
It's really, really important. And I know it's important for you. And it's important that we get this done and get this approved. So we want to do whatever you need help with, we want to do it. And I've got, beside Mr. Ritter, there's other people that have really been kind enough to not only submit all these letters on Felix's behalf, but also they are very much, they want to be involved in the fundraising as well. So, so that's important. I wanted to start with that and just let you know where we're coming from. And, the cover letter that I did, I was going to start the meeting after I said what I just said. There's so much on there, but it was really to give you the background of Felix Karski and to let you know that according to the naming of the facilities document that Christina sent to me, he really does check off all the boxes and even more so. Born and raised in the South End of Hartford, and he went to Buckley High School, graduated from Buckley High School, where he excelled at, in sports, as well as academically. He got a scholarship for football to go to Trinity College. He graduated from Trinity. He came right back to Buckley High School, where he taught American history and economics and debate for 40 years. He also coached football, basketball, and he went on to be the faculty manager at the school as well. He graduated. He retired in 1996 after 40 years of teaching and coaching. And when asked why, he said that, just if you count how many students he taught throughout the years, he taught not only those people, but also their kids. And then in some cases, their kids. And he said, it was time. I went to Buckley High School, and it was interesting because, my dad is Felix Karski. He was a teacher there and a coach when I was going to school. So, it was a little I was very nervous about that, but it turned out to be a really great experience. I was very proud of him. The teachers that he taught with, the administrators, the students, the players, they really, really bonded with my father. I remember so many stories of kids coming over to our house, having Sunday dinner with us, and just, he was their friend, he was their coach, he was their mentor. And if you read the supporting letters, I mean, they really speak for themselves. And I can't even say it as beautifully as these people have said it. It's just, very humbling. And, I can't even think of another person who would deserve this. And that's why it's really important that if you haven't had a chance, if you could please read some of the letters of support, as well as some of the articles. There's many more where those come from or where those came from. So if you need more, I'd be more than happy to submit that. We just want to make sure that if there's any obstacles, what can we do to overcome them? And we're here to do that. So I just would love to hear if you have any questions. Again, I know you have a lot of things going on today, but there's so much in that cover letter that gives you the background of my dad. And I think everybody just really, all the people that wrote the letters, it kind of got summed up that he was not only their teacher, their coach, but he was there for them outside of school, outside of the field. I remember, my mom telling me stories of how if some of the students or the kids didn't come to either class or the games or practice, he would, after school, he would go over there and check on them, make sure the family's okay, what's going on, why didn't the kid come to school, where was he at practice? So he really, really gave his whole life to not only Buckley High School, but also the South End of Hartford. Growing up, he was nicknamed the mayor of the South End, and I heard that all the time. So I hope you would consider this. It's an important project. It completely makes sense based on everything you will read. And again, we want to help financially in any way that you will allow us to.
Thank you, Lori, for sharing that. So we appreciate you making the time to bring that to our attention. If we have any questions for our fellow board members, please raise your hand. My initial question to you is, what has the reception been from the school community itself at Buckley? Who have you had a chance to speak with, and what are their thoughts?
Are you the school community currently at Buckley?
Buckley,
or-
yes, exactly. Have you spoken to the principal there, anyone else there currently? Just curious to know if they're aware of this renaming request, or what communications with the school has been.
No, I haven't, but if there's anybody you would like me to speak to, I'd be more than happy to. I definitely.
Yes, I would encourage you to reach out to the current principal and that school community. We have gone through a renaming of an entire school over the past few months, and I know the two, in that instance at least, the community that wanted the renaming versus the school at first were not on the same page, but eventually were on the same page and in agreement. But it took some communication and understanding of the history and why, because as you imagine, the school turns over fully every 4 years, at least with respect to the student body, and more retention on the administrator and teacher part. But I would encourage you to have those conversations.
Sure.
And let us know if you need us to make any introductions. And I will, yep, sorry, go ahead.
I appreciate that. That's a really good thought, and I will follow up with that. Beside the principal, is there anybody else that you would recommend that I share this information with?
If there is either a PTA or a school governance council, they may have an interest. If there's an alumni association at Buckley, just anyone who's still involved and invested in that community who you could reach out to would be great, because they'd probably be happy to learn about the history. If they have any concerns, and they would share that, but sharing that history with them too, as current participants and stakeholders, could be a great addition and perspective to bring.
Okay, thank you for mentioning that. The alumni, they started in 2015. They started the Buckley High School Hall of Fame, and my dad was in the inaugural group for that. So I know anybody involved in that is very familiar with what we're trying to do. But as far as the principal and PTA, I definitely will follow up on that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Walker?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Lori, if I can call you Lori. Yeah, I looked at some of the letters, and I appreciate what you expressed. I would just elevate what Chair Fortune shared, and emphasize the School Governance Council. In addition to the PTA, it was given to you, that group are parents and teachers, and the principal who work collaboratively around school governance. They really appreciate actually hearing this and being brought along on the journey. So I think not only will you get a positive reception, I think you may build some allies along the way. I currently live in Southwest Hartford, and so I as I'm reading the story, you're painting the picture of a different era in that in the South End.
Mhm.
I'm picturing right now, as you talked about, I know the old Washington Street School, which is now Senior Center, and looking at its proximity from the original Buckley, and then Burr, when Burr, I didn't know Burr was middle school back in that time,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
incredibly walkable. So I'm envisioning this neighborhood that's really close knit, where people are really in close proximity to each other and kind of walking place to place, from school to school, very much like I grew up. And so I think the history will really be an important lesson. The students actually can sometimes get involved and get helpful and help in building up this history because they don't know the history of their own school.
yeah.
So I would really encourage you to spend some energy engaging with the school in that way. I don't have a question for now, other than to encourage you to get more letters of support. I know from where I live now, a lot of the alumni for those schools are in the Rocky Hill, Weathersfield, and Newington area. So I hope you are able to find many excited folks to join you on this journey.
Thank you. Thank you for all that information. It is so true. You know, real quick, when my mom and dad went to Buckley, it's like you're watching an episode of Happy Days. And, you know, I mean, and then when I went to school, I graduated from Buckley, the new Buckley, and or I guess now the older new Buckley, and it changed quite a bit when I was going to school, and then you know now it's just you're right. It's so true. There's so many changes to the South End, and you know that's where we grew up. And my parents that's where I lived until I got moved after college and I got a job and I got moved to San Antonio, Texas. But other than that, we lived there our entire lives. So, but thank you. That's a really good perspective that I need to think about. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention and for submitting the application. We look forward to continuing the conversation. You are welcome to stay for more of the meeting, or welcome to take back the rest of your afternoon while it's still, sunny day outside and plenty of
Thank you.
sunlight and warmth. Thank you
Ruth,
again.
I have a quick question. What, beside what we just spoke about, do I contact Christina? How do I know what the next step is for this whole process?
You are welcome to contact Christina, particularly if you want introductions to the principal at Buckley or any of the football coach or any of the athletic departments or folks there. We have by policy a 3-month period to review the request before we vote at a general board meeting. So we're probably looking at, I'd say, summertime, right? By the time we get into the 3-month period. But so far, at least from my perspective, I'm encouraged by everything you've shared and pleased by the initiative to ensure that you will be able to fundraise to pay for any expenses associated with this.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for your time today. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, the next items on our agenda, first 2 items from 2 items under number 2. Gosh, I'm like little under the weather here, are the Darlene flooring and athletic trainers, both of which Heidi will be discussing. Feel free to go over both, or we can do them in order, whatever works for you.
Yeah, that's fine. Whichever. The athletic training one is a yearly one that we come back for every year. So if I want, I can just start with that one and it'll be nice and quick. It doesn't matter to me.
Sure, that's fine.
I put my slides up, so I'm going to share the screen here. Are you able to see it?
Not yet.
Oh. No.
No.
Oh, I got on earlier today and practiced it too. I don't know why it's not.
If you want to try to email it to Christina or to myself, I can try to share it on my end. You should be able to share it, but
yeah, I'm looking through. Oh, wait, no. Chrome. Oh, I got it. I got it now.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I think I got it now. Tell me, do you see it now?
Yes,
You see it now?
we do.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. I'm Heidi Schmidt, the Director of Athletics for Hartford Public Schools. So I'm on here tonight with two contracts that we are looking to, one move forward with and another one for enhancement of school, our school community. This one is our athletic training services. Every year we contract with UConn to provide our athletic trainers for the school year. Every year they're able to give us two athletic trainers, and they are GAs, which are graduate assistants, and they are able to work with us for 2 consecutive years. So they're on a 2-year rotation, and then every 2 years we get 2 new GAs that come in and work with us. They've been working with us since 2009, and it's been an incredible partnership. So I just put a few slides together as to why we need athletic trainers. Every school should have one. All of the schools in Connecticut, well, as long as they're able to get one, because they're very hard to get right now. We've had a shortage in athletic trainers. So every school has one. They are expected to be at games. They're also there for rehab. They're there to help student athletes get back on the field when they had injuries. A big good connection between our doctors that we have from St. Francis that work with us on every Tuesday. They come in and work with our student athletes. So it's been a nice transition for our kids between the doctors, the athletic trainers, and getting back onto the field. Immediate care to the injured player, works with the physicians, beneficial to the parents because the athletic trainer also has communication back and forth with the parents and can give them advice, can talk to them about the next steps when their student athlete is injured. The daily presence of an athletic trainer, we try to do the best we can. We do have 8 high schools. We have 2 contracted through here. We have a couple that we do per diem so that we can try to cover as many events as possible. But having 2 that are on our with our schools every single day for 20 hours a week for the entire school year is a great way for our kids to work on coming back. So they know the kids, they get to know the injuries, they get to work with the student athlete injuries, and it's not a new person coming in to deal with the injuries like if you just did per diem. And it's strongly recommended by all of the organizations. This is just something that comes out of the CIAC. It's just an expert from their handbook where they strongly recommend it. If you guys want to take a quick look at that, I was going to read the whole thing for you. The other great thing, and they did put in here, they talk about cardiac arrest and heat illness and concussion. There's a concussion protocol for our student athletes. If they do get a concussion, they have a 5-day protocol to get back into the game. This takes the pressure off of the coaches and the families to determine whether or not their student athlete is ready to come back into play. Our athletic trainers are able to work with them on a daily basis to make sure that they are safe to get back into the game. And heat illness, they do work with us as well when we have those really hot days in August, when we come back to school on what's safe and not safe for our student athletes as well. Reduces injuries. They do a lot of prevention. The needs for Hartford schools, it's education. A lot of our kids actually go and they shadow them and they look at it as a possible job for them for the future. So they do work with them, ask them a lot of questions. It's an equity amongst all the schools and districts, safety measures, coverages, practices, and games, concussions, return to parade calls. Pretty much everything I've already discussed is listed here in the bullets. And this is the contract. It's $85,970. That's for the 2 trainers for the entire year. We get them for 20 hours a week. Starting in August 23rd when football starts all the way through to May 22nd. If we go a little bit beyond May 22nd, we do work with them per diem to finish up the school year if we have state tournaments and things that go into June. We would love to get a 3rd one from them to help us out, but unfortunately, like I said, there is a shortage. Now it's frozen on me. Oh, that was it. That's the last slide. Sorry. That's why I froze. Yep, sorry.
Sure. Thank you for that. I think I see at least one hand up before I pass it to Board Member Chayka. The Chayka, thank you. Just a couple of questions. So this is strictly for football only that these?
Oh, no, all sports all year long. I just said they start because football starts in early August. So that's why we have them starting in early August. That's really one of the prime times when football starts, and they go all the way through the end of May.
And is that for high school level or high
Yeah.
school and middle school?
No, high school level. However, if I do need them for middle school, they will come in. They'll help take care of it. They show up to a lot of our middle school championships, or if I have a middle schooler that has an injury and they need some support, they are more than willing to come. But they are contracted for the high school.
And so you're saying 2 or 3 people do that for all of our sports, or is it 2 or 3 people at a time, but they have a large number of them who will show up at any given time?
Oh no, we have 2 that are contracted to UConn, and we have somebody that is a per diem, and we try to cover as many sports as we possibly can. As you can see, they're not cheap, and they there is a shortage for them, but we do our best, and we cover all of our contact sports first. We make sure that all of those get covered, and we go down the line from there, dealing with the most injury prone sports versus some of the ones that are not as injury prone. However, they are and can, because they're so close by in proximity, if something's going on in an event, they'll come right over if we call them to come take care of a situation if needed.
Thank you. I'll pause my questions and pass it over to Board Member Chayka.
Hi, sorry, my Alexa's talking to me right now. I have 2 questions. One, when you say that they're GAs, does that mean that they are certified trainers, or that they're working towards that certification?
No, they're certified trainers. Theirs is a 4-year. They have a 4-year degree, so they're already certified with that's their master's. So they're going on to continue on, and it's just a work with UConn. So part of this pays for part of their tuition as well. So it's kind of like a program, like a work study program. But they are fully certified on their own.
Great. And then second question, if any issues do arise with the trainer and perhaps like the care that they do provide, is Hartford Public Schools liable, or is UConn liable in the case that it would result in, a student's injury or something like that?
We do have a contract with UConn. I don't know, Ed, maybe you might be able to answer that one a little better for me.
I'd have to look at the contract, but my assumption would be there's language in the contract that provides for it provides on some level what liability looks like.
Okay.
And some of that also would depend on kind of like the athletic, like kind of how the injury was sustained, etc. So liability can be a more complicated question, but if it's specific to their care, my assumption that would be part of the contract. I can absolutely look at the contract and circle back on that specific question.
Okay, thanks.
And they all have to have their own insurance as well. They're all insured as well.
Oh, good to know. Well, thank you.
Yep.
Do I have any other board members who wish to ask questions? All right, so one more question for you, Heidi. Have we ever done that in-house with our own staff, or is this always something that we've outsourced as long as you've been involved, at least as far as you know?
And I've not that I've known of or know that we have any athletic trainers that are certified athletic trainers on our own staff. We have nurses that we've asked on occasion to pitch in every once in a while, but they're also not trained on athletic injuries and getting them back in the games, taping ankles and all that type of thing. But we put it out there for our per diems and stuff and asked, but we just don't have the staff that I know of or have known of over the years of anybody who is certified in athletic training. But we would be more than happy to bring somebody on board as far as per diem. They do overlap with the school day, so they wouldn't be able to be somebody during the school day. They do come in before the kids get out of school to start preparing and getting ready for games and stuff. But obviously we do have per diem funds available to help cover the game. So if there is somebody that is certified and wants to take on this, absolutely.
Thank you for answering. I think I asked just so I have a good comprehensive understanding, especially at a time when we're under a lot of scrutiny as far as our budget is concerned. I think asking these questions are necessary. My question is more of sort of a global question, and maybe that's more directed toward you, Attorney Wilson. Curious to know why this is coming through policy as opposed to, say, the finance committee. Just curious overall. Maybe I should have asked that at our pre-policy planning meeting, but just curious.
I think there was a conflict with one of the other meetings. So just for efficiency, we put it on this agenda. So it got in front of the board. I believe there was a conflict on the Wednesday meeting. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's what happened.
Okay, fair enough. It's fine. Obviously we'll move on to the board for a vote. Any other questions on the athletic trainers? Okay, seeing none, we can proceed to, I'm sorry, I said Darlene Flooring earlier. It's Daleen Flooring. Is that how it's
Daleen
pronounced?
Flooring.
Daleen
Yep,
Flooring.
Daleen.
Thank you.
All right, let me go back in, do this one again. Okay, can you see it now? Okay, perfect. This one is, so now that with the policy committee for, so that if touch back is we've had an athletic grant for 3 years that we've been able to use for athletics and enhancing our athletics and growing our athletics in the district. And with that, it's opened up some additional funding for me as well with the general budget to be able to do some of the things that are needed in the district that kind of got put on the back burner due to obviously funding and things can be expensive. So one of the things that we were able to do with the fact that I wasn't able to find that third athletic trainer, so I had a little bit of funding left over there and some extra funding in my general budget due to the grant, which is now over. So this is it as far as being able to take the opportunity to help out some things is that I was able to get some funding to refurbish the Annie Fisher gymnasium floor and the Belizzi gymnasium floor. They've been untouched for many, many years. There is warping, there is paint fading, there are lines that are not visible. So what we did was when we have Daleen Flooring, we already have a contract with them. We would just have to do a POM, have them come in, and they are funded. They would be funded through my general budget. Annie Fisher's floor, it's a smaller gym, would be $21,630, but this goes down to the bones and bringing it right back to life. Completely refurbished, painted, colored lines, all the lines that they need for either PE and athletics. The same for Belizzi, and that gym is a lot bigger. That used to be a full-size high school gym, and that one is $38,000, which brings us to a total of $59,630 to complete both projects. Daleen Flooring, it just goes through the strategic goal is just making sure, when the kids walk into the gym, I mean, that's for pride and they want to walk in, it becomes a place where they want to have community involvement, efficiency, and facilities across the district have been getting improved. And this is another way to help keep them with equity with the rest of the district. Annie Fisher, it just is everything that it's including. Like I said, they're going to see on the existing floor to the bare wood, removing any existing urethane, take care of any issues that they have with the flooring, and then bring it right back to life again with lines and color, and it's going to be beautiful. And the same thing with Belizzi. They're going to be doing all the same things there with Belizzi. Kind of just let you take a look at this. And they'll be able to, the schools are part of this as well, part of the design and making sure that the floor is going to meet all the needs that they need for both physical education and for athletics. It's just very transparent that the floors need to be done. I was able to find a way to take care of it at the end of the school year. And we're just hoping that we'll be able to move forward and get these floors taken care of for the student athletes and for the students in the building and the community.
Thank you, Heidi. Any questions from our board members? First, Board Member Walker, and then Board Chair Brody.
Yeah, I think Board Chair Brody was just applauding.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Sorry.
So no. So Heidi, a couple questions here, just kind of rapid fire. So this project appears to be refurbishing those classic wood plank floors.
Yep.
And this is different than I think in prior years we've done this new rubber plastic type of
Yeah, it depends on the floor that was already there. So some of the floors can't have the wood flooring. Like Hartford High, we had to use that Mundo flooring in there because you can't put the wood in with the track that was around it. We did ESM, which is a multi-purpose room. It's not a full gym, and those floors are a lot more durable and they last longer. But the gym floors that had the hardwood floors, we are maintaining those. Those are valuable assets to school buildings.
Okay, so then and two, so in this situation, you don't anticipate any issues with line creation formation? Because I know with some of those other floors, somehow there was some kind of out of bound line things that somehow became confusing. Do you know the issue?
Where?
Well, at one of the schools, I was students were talking about like the overlap of a basketball court and then other courts, and somehow there wasn't always like a line distinction. That may be getting a little bit in the weeds. So I will
Yeah,
I
it would depend on the school. It would depend on the school and the size. Like a lot of our middle schools, some of the gyms are really, really small. So we had to make adjustments to make it to the best, feasible operational type of facility that we could.
Okay.
But these two gyms, I don't think we'll have any issues with these two gyms because they both have the space allowed to put in the full, or like to be able to see all of the end lines and everything for a full court.
Okay, so I just wanted to understand how it happened, but I get your point that I've seen schools that don't have the full dimensions that you would expect. And I think that's it. I had one last question, but I will let that go. And good luck with the projects this year.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Mr. Dyson, I noticed the source of this grant was Magnet. And so if I can sneak in one last question, is there a way that are we tracking the community schools for their needs? Because I'm assuming this money, I'm wondering if it's only allowable to be used for magnet schools in the district, or do communities also have access to this money if they have needs?
These schools don't have anything to do with the magnet grant. This is all out of my general budget. So these are schools that did not get any of that funding for anything. So this is how I'm able to help with the community schools. I've already done almost all of the community schools, I think, and the only ones that are left in the middle school for my sports are the ones that are going to be renovated. So I think after this, all of our community middle schools have had their floors redone.
Okay, so I was confused. I saw the source of the money was that interscholastic magnet. If you go to the
maybe I you know what, I used it old, so I think I might have missed one of them to pull out of there. No, this is strictly out of general budget.
Oh, okay, thank you. That's why I got confused. I was going to say that's the only reason I was confused. Okay, no, I got you. If you're no funds, I have no issues.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other questions with respect to Daleen flooring, so we'll proceed with the third part of our agenda, which are the first readings. Thank you, Heidi, for joining us and for bringing us all this wonderful content. We'll start with, I'll throw it over to Erin Wilson to go over first the fines, fees, and charges policy.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully this will work. Please let me know if you're able to see it.
We see it. Thank you.
Great. So this policy, fees, fines, charges, is essentially about the district's ability to essentially like levy a fee if certain educational equipment is destroyed or not returned to us. And so some of this language is directly from the CABE model policy, and I'll just point out the sort of major changes. The language changed just slightly. The stuff in the first paragraph is from the CABE model policy. In the second paragraph, it gets into the responsibility of students to exercise care. Instructional materials would not only be physical, I don't know how much we use physical books anymore, but any physical books, library books, but also electronic devices. And that was the piece that was missing from the policy before. The policy didn't specifically say anything about computers, Chromebooks, like the sort of technology that the kids are using. So, you could see in that we've added the sentence that a student may be assessed costs of replacing any materials or property which are lost or damaged through negligence. So there's language about, fines that could be assessed, but importantly, also at the bottom, we made sure to include a paragraph that gives school administrators the ability to waive all or a portion of the debt. Obviously, we're aware that there are families who may not be able to afford the cost of replacing materials. And, so we just want to make sure we're trying to balance hoping that kids will, take better care of their electronics, that we'll have fewer that go missing. But obviously, we don't want to financially punish students when their families can't afford the fine. So that's why we were trying to balance those two things. And if there's any questions about current practices or about changes, Jose Colon is also on and I think would be able to answer questions.
Board Member Walker, sorry, I did not mute myself. Thank you, Aaron. Go ahead, Board Member Walker.
Yeah, thank you. This is about balancing fees and the payback costs, and so I guess this is for Aaron and Mr. Colon. Right now, it looks like students may pay or not pay for anything that's lost. I've heard in other districts that families sometimes pay like a deposit for items, and so they get their deposit back at the end of the year. I'm assuming that deposit gives them a little skin in the game to kind of make sure it gets returned. Have we considered that, or are you aware of other districts who use that kind of the deposit approach as a way of kind of getting items back?
Did we lose? Right.
I'm
still seeing everything, but Board Member Walker, you were cutting in and out a little bit, at least on my end.
I didn't realize that. It's where
you're still cutting in and out, but I think
where I'm located in my house.
Sorry, you're still cutting in and out, but his question is ultimately about whether or not asking essentially for sort of a deposit upfront has been considered.
So thank you for the question. So just for some historical context, we're currently a district that does provide or is structured to provide students with a device like one-to-one. And this actually came as a result of sort of the emergency situation during COVID, where we had to, literally turn from classroom-based instruction to remote-based instruction, at which time we emptied all of the devices that we had and provided students. Since then, we've slowly, working with our partners at MHIS, have continued to develop structures wherein students can, obtain their one-to-one devices. We are aware, and we've seen, some districts that do within their structure provide, I guess, have a requirement for students to have some sort of an upfront deposit. Obviously the structure predates me, the current structure predates me. And my understanding is that that's not something that we did here, just because we wanted to make sure that there was access to devices for all of our students up front. In terms of, have we considered that? I mean, we do struggle mightily, I will say, with the accountability portion of this. We do experience a pretty significant loss of devices, either through negligent destruction, loss, some stolen devices that we need to then provide replacements for. And so are we aware of structures wherein there is a deposit so that students have a little bit quote unquote skin in the game, or families, but at this time we haven't taken on that approach. I think we provide the device, but at the same time, I mean, this policy, my understanding is that it was last reviewed in 2004, maybe, right? Something like that. Yeah. So adopted 2000 and then last updated 2004. So, 20 plus years. Didn't include devices. It was mostly, instructional materials like books and things of that sort. And so it's a different, reality when we're talking about devices. And then just to be able to provide our students with access to the devices, we've not included a deposit as part of that process.
Thank you. Board Member Walker, did you have a follow-up question? I don't think I see any other hands up.
Yes, thank you. Super quick. Thank you, Ms. Clum. So I did want to say, not part of this policy discussion today, but at some point moving forward, I want the board to get a better sense of the loss that we're having over the past several years as it relates to these devices. And so just want to put the question of the deposit thing on the table, because based on what we find out about loss and the amount of loss that we have, it may be something we want to revisit. But for right now, I appreciate your response, and I'm fine with it for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe I see any other hands up, so we will proceed to the next item on our agenda. The parent/community involvement.
And I can share this on the screen, but I would invite someone else to be the one to sort of give the background. I believe Janelle Hooker was the person who was mainly working on this.
Janelle is here, so yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, everyone. Thank you, Attorney Wilson, if you could share with the screen. For this particular one, there were a couple of things of why we're bringing this up to your attention. In our recent resubmittal to the state for our renewal of Title I funds, it was brought up to our attention that we needed to revisit or review our policy as it was old, and not in compliance per their expectations. One of the areas to flag is the Title I, Section 1118 of the ESEA is no longer 1118, is now the 1116. And we also wanted to make a reflection of parents and students and or community members to have access to tools that support child's learning, behavior, and well-being, as that was not language in the policy. Ensure that community resources was available to them, access to the student parent handbook, which we didn't have as a language here, but it is a requirement through Title I for this to be listed, and for something that we are offering to our parents on an annual basis. For us to be able to have or to deliberately express that we do offer open houses for our families, as well as training and or workshops or information around specific areas around attendance, special education, curriculum, literacy, and numeracy, as well as parents having access to volunteer opportunities. And there's also a reflection at the end of this policy where we wanted to just update the legal reference, just to really highlight or elevate the shift that happened on the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which moved from 1118 to 1116. And then, as we've been doing recently, we also work on the regulation that would explain how these things would be implemented as part of the policy. And I don't see it on this one.
I'm
know
sorry. The version that I have didn't include the regulations. I can check with Christina to see if
that's okay. I can
she's
forward
able.
it to you as
okay.
I wait to see if there's any questions. I'll forward you what I sent to Christina.
Thank you, Janelle, for that information. Board Member Walker?
Yeah, thank you. So, yes, Director Hooker, because of the change, that bullet 4, is that still relevant? Because it still says 1118 in line 4. I know in terms of, in terms of the source materials now 1116. So I'm just wondering if line 4 is still relevant in this policy.
Yes, so I read everything. It's interesting. The only thing that really changed was primarily the numbers to reflect that there was an edit. Oh, hold on, I'm doing the wrong errand. Sorry. That there was a shift in what is the specific language? Hold on one second. The shift that occurred was specific to the listing of any other activities, the language that I'm reading out to you right now, the listing of any other activities that would be carried out such described on the Elementary and Secondary Education Act as amended by the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSEA. But all of the other pieces that we had in terms of our regular language does apply.
Okay. So, all right. So the No Child Left Behind is still somehow in the mix then. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is this okay, this has the regulations added. Did you want to cover that as well, Janelle? Any comments on the regulation portion?
So on the regulations, what we're trying to do here is to just describe how the different sections of the policy would either be implemented or what are some of the things that we would elevate or highlight. One piece that I would want to bring to the attention of the committee is the annual Title I meeting, which is one section that is in the policy and has been in the policy and continues to be a part of Title I expectation that the Board of Education should conduct an annual meeting where we are having conversations or educating our families around Title I and how the fundings would be dispersed or executed. So this is the only section that I would like to really just bring to all of our attention of something that we need to further have a plan in place. But other than that, it's really just listing or elevating pieces that would make sense to help implement and ensure that we're keeping fidelity to the model, to the policy.
Thank you. My question is a general one. I would presume it is the case, but I just want to ask. So this should really much align and not have any conflicting content with respect to the volunteer policy that we adopted and got lots of feedback on. Have we internally been able to just sort of make sure that those two policies are aligned with each other and don't have any conflicting provisions?
So yeah, so in terms of the volunteer policy, nothing is really shifting. On the community involvement, on the parent and community involvement, we need to have reference of the volunteer opportunities, which would then link to the policy that we also have there. So it's the policy that we just implemented around volunteer wouldn't really have a shift. It would be listed here that they are access to volunteer opportunities in their child's school. Maybe we should add, and now that you're saying that I didn't think of it, maybe you could just have a parenthesis that says as reference on policy such, so then it brings them back to connect that we do have a policy in that. But I just thought of that now as you brought up the question. And Board Member Walker, just to give you exactly the wording that it had in terms of the difference between 1118 and 1116 is 1118 ESEA, the No Child Left Behind is the older version. Now the language or the focus need to be parent involvement requirements. So in 1116, which is the current law, it focused on school improvement and accountability for struggling schools, which speak to the No Child Left Behind, but the language is what got updated.
Thank you very much, Director Hooker. Actually, the version you're showing now has your comments, notes in it. It's clear. This is just
Okay.
better than the one that I read previously. So that's very good.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands. That volunteer policy, I believe, is 1212 and 1212R, if we want to reference them to ensure that they are connected. Because I know that was a policy that we did get a lot of client input about, and I think parent university got involved and wrote the board and so on. So I just want to make sure that we're tying policies together when they're interrelated.
Yeah, that was a good point. We'll make sure we add that.
Okay, thank you. The third item for first reading and the third portion of our agenda is the drug and alcohol use. Again, I will pass it over to Erin Wilson. I've been refraining from saying Wilson because we have two Wilsons in the meeting. So, but then I feel like I'm referring to the women by first name and the men by last name. So Erin Wilson, please, you have the floor.
Thanks. Erin is fine. It's totally fine. So we have some updates to the drug and alcohol use by students policy. There were a number of changes made and actually a number of departments that all gave input to this. So I'll just sort of go over the highlights of some of the changes. Some of this was just making our language in better alignment with the CABE model policy. It hasn't been updated for quite a while. And so we updated some of just the basic policy statement language. The definitions have not changed. A couple of things that were added. This is all from the CABE model policy regarding the use of marijuana products and privacy rights. The use of marijuana products, basically it says that that will not be allowed on school grounds regardless of whether it constitutes a controlled substance under federal law. Right now, it is illegal under federal law. If that changes, our policy would still say you can't be selling marijuana products on school grounds. Privacy rights. Again, this is not like a change to our current practice. It just wasn't spelled out in this way in the policy. So we took the CABE model policy language for that. And some of the details about like privileged communication is addressed below, but this is just sort of a more general statement about privacy rights. The other thing that was changed was some medical updates. The policy before made no reference to any opioid overdose prevention or response. We recently, just this past fall, passed an entire policy on that. So this doesn't get into a lot of detail, but we just wanted to make sure this policy referenced that. So at least it is included that in an emergency that nasal naloxone will be administered if an opioid overdose is suspected, just to make sure that that was like clear in this policy as well as our other. Additionally, just an update to the prescription medications that they have to be stored in the nurse's office, except for things like inhalers, insulin, anything that's life-saving. Again, not a change to practice. We're just making sure it's in the policy. There were no changes to anything about voluntary or involuntary disclosure. This just addresses that if students are talking about drug use when talking to the school social worker or other privileged communications, that we have a different response to that than if we were to, for example, do a search and find, any paraphernalia on a student. We did make a change to the section about search and seizure, just to make it clear what is to be done with anything that is seized from students and, kind of what the procedure is for making sure that gets turned into law enforcement. And academic input into this, in this paragraph here, it did say that for this particular category under C, that the administrator will recommend student for expulsion. And the feedback was it wouldn't be necessarily for expulsion, it would be for discipline in accordance with our culture and climate. And so we just wanted to not have the policy specifically say expulsion because it may be a different level of discipline. So those were all the changes to this policy.
Thank you very much, Erin. Any questions from board members or anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the final item in the third portion of our agenda, somewhat shorter. It is the smoking in school facilities policy 1331. And again, I'll turn it over to you, Erin.
Thank you. So this is a policy that had not been updated in quite some time. 2004 is the last time it was updated. And so this is all language from the CABE model policy. We wanted to ensure that we defined tobacco in a way that would include like vapor products, or other devices, because that wasn't a thing that we were worried about in 2004, but obviously it is now. So it explicitly talks about tobacco and e-cigarette use by students. I do also want to point out that we added, because our policy is that no one shall smoke or chew tobacco inside any school system facility, and it used to end there. We've actually added or on school grounds, because there was a law that was passed in 2024 in Connecticut that smoking is prohibited on school grounds generally, not just within the building. So we just wanted to make sure our policy reflected that.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. I think the last time we discussed smoking, someone brought up vaping, might have been board member Walker, but good to see that that is addressed. Any questions before we move on to the very final part of our agenda? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Erin, for your contribution, and Janelle for sharing with us about the parent and community policy. The last item on the agenda is more of a discussion, and it's the hiring of superintendent policy. This came about through board member Krista Estrada Perez brought it to my attention, and she highlighted the CABE model policy as something for us to consider and to look into. So there is a red line that Christina circulated with our current superintendent hiring policy, redlined with the CABE model policy. It is by no means the policy as we should adopt it. It is a start for a discussion. And to the extent you've had a chance to review that, I do welcome your input. I have it as a PDF here. I will share my screen here. Okay. Are you able to see that policy? Can you all see it? Yes, okay. So the policy that we had before was really quite short. This is essentially all of it, the part here that's crossed out, that was the extent of the policy. This one, I've made some marks, the black that you see here, it's me just adding some of my thoughts. It starts off with essentially requiring the board to hire a qualified search consultant, which I don't think should be a requirement. So right away, I think at a minimum, we would want to say that the board may hire a qualified search consultant, but is not required to do so. And the rest of the language will have to be revised accordingly, because it sort of presumes that a consultant is hired and working with the Board of Education. So there would be a lot of revisions to make in accordance to this. But also bear in mind, whatever this policy is, the next board that is tasked with hiring the superintendent can very much revise the policy all over again and change it to whatever they wish for that policy to be. That said, I open the floor to any and all of you who may have any thoughts that you wish to share.
Chair, if I could be recognized.
Yes, Board Member Walker.
Yes, thank you, Chair. You've elevated the, I've not deep dived into it, but a reading of it, that was my first flag is the consultant should be optional. We had a situation this past year where, Waterbury, in essence, separated from their consultant. So board should have the ability to do this without consultant. And so I think you've captured the rest of the language around that. And I'd want to study it some more. I know I wanted to insert some, I was looking for some CAPE language. I don't know if it was CAPE, but I know I saw language from another, I thought it was CAPE, that recommended having like an advisory board or some other way to get non-board voices as part of the process. But I want to study this some more to see how appropriately to kind of insert that.
Thank you, Board Member Walker. Board Member Chayka?
Thank you. I actually had a very similar concern to Tyrone in that I was kind of wondering where community input would be here, and that if there was an opportunity to include that either, kind of like in the timeline, the recruitment timeline, or just, making it a mention here that, input from the community would be considered, when embarking on the process.
Yes, thank you for pointing out. That's one of the things actually that Board Member Estrada Perez liked in whatever she highlighted to me that is not exactly what this reflects. I'm not sure where she pulled that from. It was just a screenshot via text message. But yes, it recommended strongly that we have some community involvement prior to making a final offer to a superintendent. And I think it is something to consider. From my involvement in the last hiring of Dr. Townsell and what I hear from what was done in the past, as I understand it, the prior board that hired the prior superintendent went the full public route where the community had a lot of input and people were quite upset that their candidate did not win and then the people whose candidate. So in any case, there was complaints that there was community input, but the community's input wasn't actually weighted sufficiently according to the people who did not get their candidate to be hired. And then we went the other end of the spectrum where there was no community input in terms of the interview process. The community input was front loaded. We went out and said, what are you looking for in a superintendent? What are the qualities you prioritize? Would you want someone local? Would you want more of a regional or national search? We did a lot of community engagement prior to actually getting the list of applicants and interviewing them. But then there was, some people in the community were upset that there wasn't community input throughout the hiring process. So I don't know that it will ever be in a process that fully pleases everyone, but I think given that, 8 out of 9 of us on the board have gone through the process, we're probably a well-suited board to consider that policy and see what we may want to put as guidance to the next board, knowing that they may very well change that. Board Member Walker, did you have any other comments?
Yes, quickly, I'm going to, based on what you just said in terms of some prior approaches, I'm going to recommend too that we consider adding some guidance documentation kind of below the policy. I don't want to load the policy up with too much detail, but what you were just talking about was like the unhappiness that folks had, at least as I understood it, was not necessarily that we had an open forum. It was then that committees had non-public private meetings where decisions were made there, and those decisions weren't transparent to the public or the process until a decision was made. And so I think some guidance that may direct how groups should conduct themselves and how they should act throughout the process, I think would be helpful as well. Because if you understand what I'm saying, like, to me, that this kind of process should be light on closed meetings, and if you're going to go a certain direction, right? And or if you do have closed meetings, have a way to really communicate with people. So, but that's more of a guidance. That's not so much policy. So I'm just kind of lifting up, potentially adding some guidance, which would be recommended approaches of folks conducting this, so they don't like stub their toe or do things that would undermine kind of the interest of the policy.
Thank you, Board Member Walker. Sorry, did someone else want to say something? Okay. I don't see any other hands. I suppose I'll close by saying this. In the past, you know, I know I've taken on introducing a new policy that I've sort of had a strong view about and strongly advocated for it to be shaped one way or another. This is a policy that I do believe we should consider and revise, but in terms of substantively what it says, I do think it should be a collective effort, not just what I think is best, because, you know, frankly, I don't know that there is a best way to go about it. It should be just, what do we think is a reasonable way to go about doing so? There's sort of pros and cons to whatever we choose. So I do encourage all of you to take a look and let me know, or let Christina know, or let Attorney Wilson or Aaron Wilson, whomever, know what your thoughts are and what changes you'd want to see, instead of, you know, me leading with making all the changes and redlining, as I've done with some other policies in the past, because it is something that was brought from another board member, and I think something that is very, you know, inherently a collective policy that affects every board member with one of the most important duties that we have. So I do welcome your feedback and thoughts on this policy. I know from my perspective, having worked with the search firm in the past, it was kind of a mixed experience for me. You know, one of the things they made clear at the front end was that you do want to have this be a private policy so you could attract more applicants and more qualified applicants, because people may not want to know that they're, you know, trying to find another job and put the applicants in an uncomfortable situation. I will say that most of what I've observed since have been quite to the contrary. Schools look for superintendents quite publicly, and they go on these interviews, and their districts know about it. So I, you know, personally, I felt slightly misled by that and a little frustrated by that. It just seemed like it was very much one-sided guidance. So having lived through it, I do think we have some wisdom that we can share with the next board via this policy. And I do welcome all of your thoughts. And that concludes my remarks on this policy. I don't see any other hands up. Did anyone have any last comments to share? Otherwise, I thank you all for your time and for joining this meeting, and look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.